who are my top 10 groups. Ahoy hoy everybody, I'm up to this video where I declare my 10 favourite musical groups. I first wrote this list over a year ago and never got round to doing the video, and decided I was going to do it today, and I've actually changed 2 of them, which changed slightly in the last year. So the 2 I've sort of dropped off my list are Girls Aloud. Love Girls Aloud, my favourite girl group. Make no bones about my love for Girls Aloud. Might not be trendy, some people might hate them, that's fine, but I really love Girls Aloud. The other one that's dropped off is Manic Street Preachers. Again, still love Manic Street Preachers, but over the last year my love for another group has sort of developed a bit more, and that group is my number 10, Supergrass. So I knew Supergrass, you know, from the beginning, from '94 when they first hit the scene. But for the first album, most of the singles sort of passed me by. Obviously I knew Alright, and you know, everybody knew Alright, everybody still knows Alright. But Caught by the Fires, Lenny, Time, just passed me by completely. Second album, In It For The Money, came out. Loved the singles, first couple of singles from that, bought the album, carried on, bought the third album, so on and so forth. I didn't buy Aisha Coco, their debut album, until the whatever anniversary it was re-release on CD. 20th anniversary was it, or 10th? Or 15th, whatever it was. But you know, it was well after it was released that I actually got Aisha Coco. And even then, first couple of times I listened to it, it was lacking a certain something with me. But now I love it, the more I've heard it. So they released start of last year, which I did an unboxing of, their box set. You can't see it, it's on top of my shelves now. My boxes, cubes, that's the word I was looking for. They released an awesome box set with all their albums on picture disc and on CD, and then loads of bonus stuff on CD, B-sides, mixes, live stuff, BBC sessions, all sorts. Huge collection, really, really good set. And sort of listening to everything all again, and they reformed. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see them live, but they've just released this live album, Live on Other Planets. You can see I've got a nice signed copy of. And that's awesome, and you know, I've just grown over the last year to really love Supergrass. So they are my number 10. So number 9, replacing Girls Aloud, is a new band. They've released 1 album, a covers album, and they've got an EP due out very soon. I have talked about them a number of times on my channel, and that is The Lottery Winners. Again, a nice signed copy of their debut album. So I discovered them supporting Sleeper, pink vinyl, at the Wedgwood Rooms in Portsmouth, and they were just one of the best support acts I've ever seen. Possibly, you know, probably second best support act I've ever seen. Great songs, great musicianship, and the lead singer Tom is just a brilliant front man, really funny, great stage presence, just an excellent band. So I've followed them ever since and just really love their work, and I highly recommend this album. This is The Lottery Winners, number 9. So number 8 was one of my earlier musical loves. It's Dire Straits. So this is Love Over Gold. Like many people, I discovered Dire Straits through Brothers in Arms. Had the Brothers in Arms album. I don't know if I bought it in 85 or 86, but had it on vinyl when I was 10 or 11. Straight away, Dire Straits became my favourite band. Bought all their albums on cassette. Then subsequently got them all on CD, and then now got them all on vinyl. But yeah, just love Dire Straits. Mark Knopfler, brilliant songwriter, brilliant guitarist. I like how diverse their music is. You'll find that with probably all my favourite bands, is that they don't just stick to one style of music. So, you know, on this album, you've got, you know, Telegraph Road is a very different song from Industrial Disease, and I love them both, for example. So yeah, number 8 is Dire Straits. And then they were sort of taken over in my musical loves by Queen. I thought I'd show you... I didn't want to get my big box set of all the studio albums down. I didn't want to show you Hot Space. So I've got Hot Space and Flash separately on vinyl because I've had those as a kid. And then everything else I've got in the vinyl box set. But rather than get that down, I thought I would show you this. A nice interview picture disc of Queen. So yeah, I can't remember what sort of prompted me into loving Queen. I certainly saw them on Live Aid, but I don't think that was it. I'm pretty certain that wasn't it. It was just sort of around the time of A Kind of Magic that I sort of really became aware of their music. The first album of theirs I owned was on cassette, Live Magic. And again, went back, got all their albums on cassette, then on CD, then again on CD, and now on vinyl. But yeah, again, another band, you know, so diverse in styles. James Griffiths did an excellent video of all the different genres of music that can be found in Queen's catalogue. Number 7, Queen. Number 6, and we're back to Britpop, and we're a bit Britpop heavy from now on, with one exception, I think. Yeah. And it's the Bluetones. Bluetones are another band whose debut album basically passed me by. I was vaguely aware of Slight Return and Cut Some Rug and Are You Blue or Are You Blind, but, you know, only I heard them on the radio and they didn't really leap out. I was a bit put off by them. This is their singles collection on clear vinyl. I was a bit put off because when their Expecting to Fly was released, their debut album, people were saying they, you know, The Enemy or The Melody Maker, or one of them, or both, were saying they're the best new band since Oasis. And at the time, I really didn't like Oasis. I've grown to appreciate Oasis, but I don't love Oasis. So that put me off them a fair bit, I think. And I didn't really check them out properly until... I don't really know, actually, thinking about it. I can't remember what was, you know, made it click. But I think... I'm trying to think what the first album of theirs was I got. Probably the second album, Return to the Last Chance Saloon. But I'm not 100% on that. It might even have been Science and Nature. I know I completely fell in love with the song After Hours, which was the single off of this, but I was already a fan by then. I really don't remember what it was that suddenly made me a fan. But over the years, I've grown to really love them. Seen them live a number of times in the last few years. Always excellent shows. Just great songwriting. Again, lots of, you know, different styles of music covered. Really catchy songs. Great lyrics. Brilliant musicianship. The Bluetones. Number, what are we on? 5? Is Sleeper. Sleeper I have loved since I first heard In-Betweener, which would have been sometime in 95, possibly end of 94. I can't remember exactly when the single was released, because I know that came out before the album, Smart. This is The Modern Age. This is their new album. They have now released another album, but that is an old album that was never released. But since reforming, they recorded and released this album, A Modern Age. Nice signed copy. Which version's this? I've got this on 3 or 4 different colours. This is the red vinyl version. But yeah, absolutely loved Sleeper at the time. Bought all their music, loads of their singles. Joined their fan club. But never got the chance to see them live. Every time I played live local to where I was, so when I was at university, they played the same weekend where I travelled to London to see Prince. Locally, I think one of their gigs clashed with another gig. Another gig, I had a choice between going to see that or going to some works extracurricular, extra evening training session back in the post office days when I used to work for post office, and I made the wrong decision. So never saw them before they split. But then when they reformed, I've taken every opportunity possible to go and see them live. So I've seen them 5 times between 2018 and 2019, I think it was. I have tickets. They're doing a tour with the Bluetones. They're going to play Smarts plus hit singles. Bluetones are going to play Expecting to Fly plus hit singles. That's obviously been moved a number of times, but I have a ticket to see that. But yeah, absolutely love Sleeper. I was and always will be madly in love with Louise Wenner, the lead singer. But again, just great, catchy Britpop. Smart, funny lyrics. Great musicianship. Particularly John, the guitarist. And yeah, again, diversity in styles as well. Number 5, Sleeper. Number 4, still on a Britpop trip, we have Pulp. So this is the album that got me into Pulp. I bought it. I'd seen them perform Babies somewhere. I can't remember what it was on, whether it was Top of the Pops or whether it was Live and Kicking or Going Live or whatever it was at the time. Whether it was something else entirely, I really can't remember what I saw it on, but just loved it straight away. So bought a CD of this from Britannia Music Club, played it to death. It was, at the time I only had like 10, 20 CDs, and I was at university, so I used to just play them constantly. Absolutely love this album. Common People came out, which I think is one of the 10 best songs ever written. Bought that on CD single, subsequently bought all their CD singles, as I've already shown on the channel. Different Class came out, amazing album, bought that, listened to that to death. Bought all their subsequent albums, as I mentioned on my non-vinyl tag video, I think it was. Bought the Countdown compilation of their from their Fire, I think was the name of the label, was it? Can't remember. The album before they signed to Island, compilation of the best of that. I don't think I've ever listened to it all the way through. Really struggle with their early stuff, but everything from His and Hers on is wonderful. Again, great lyrics, funny lyrics, great musicianship, catchy songs, lots of diverse styles. You're sensing a pattern here. Love Pulp. Number 3 could be number 2. It sort of depends who I've listened to most recently between number 3 and number 2, but we'll go with Blur as number 3. This is the 25th anniversary blue and white vinyl copy of The Great Escape. So Blur, another band whose early stuff initially passed me by. I knew There's No Other Way, but didn't know it was Blur. Pretty much everything from Modern Life is Rubbish passed me by. Park Life hit, loved it. Again, that was an early purchase from Britannia Music Club. Listened to it repeatedly. One of my favourite albums, quite easily. Went on, bought everything else, went back, bought the first 2 albums, love them all. Magic Whip, I've only probably listened to once, so I do need to listen to that more to truly appreciate that, but everything else they've released I love. Again, another band, good lyrics, lots of funny stuff in there, as well as, more straight songs. Great musicianship. Graham Coxon is an amazing guitarist. I think he's hugely underrated. Lots of diverse styles. And just, a great band. So number 3 at the moment, sometimes number 2. But I haven't listened to any Blur for a while, so they're at number 3 at the moment. So number 2 is the Beatles. I mean, it's the Beatles, come on. I've obviously always been aware of the Beatles and always been aware of the Beatles songs that everybody knows. My parents, between them, had most of their albums on vinyl, but I don't remember ever actually listening to any of them. I remember poring over the sleeves, particularly Revolver, because that's obviously got a nice intricate cover, Sgt. Pepper, obviously, and Abbey Road as well, I seem to remember looking at a lot. But I don't ever recall actually listening to any of those albums as a kid. First time I joined Britannia Music Club, back in the cassette days, I picked up this album and the Blue album and played those to death, and that's when I fell in love with the Beatles. It wasn't until I started collecting CDs that I actually bought all their albums. Bought them all on the initial CD releases. I have the stereo box set, the mono box set, the US box set. I have the singles box set on vinyl. But as far as vinyl goes, I've got this and I've got the Blue album. That's as far as I'm going at the moment, because I will inherit quite a few original copies, so I'm in no rush to get them. But yes, number 2. I mean, it's the Beatles, for God's sake, you know. There are people who don't get the fuss with the Beatles. What you got to remember is that before the Beatles, bands didn't write their own songs. Very rare. You know, artists didn't write their own songs. Most of them, their songs were written for them. Still, I was going to say not quite true with black music. But even still, there's a lot of, you know, Smokey Robinson wrote songs for many artists and so on and so forth. But certainly in the world of pop, the Beatles broke the mould there. I mean, the way they progressed over what was only 8 years. If you play Please Please Me and then anything off Let It Be or Abbey Road, they're very different bands, but it's the same 4 guys. I don't need to tell you why the Beatles are brilliant. Number 2 is the Beatles. And number 1, and this shouldn't be a surprise if you know my channel, my favourite band of all time is the Divine Comedy. Again, I mean, there were no hits from the first 2 albums, or 3 if you include Fanfare for the Comic Muse. This was their breakthrough album, Casanova. I say there, I mean, Divine Comedy is Neil Hannon and whatever musicians he's working with at the time, but they are technically a band. He classes them as a band. But Something for a Weekend came out. I heard it played. Both Chris Evans and Danny Baker on Radio 1 were playing it. I can't remember which I heard first. Danny also used to play some of the older stuff. He used to play particularly Pop Singers Fear of a Pollen Count from Liberation a fair bit. But as soon as I heard Something for a Weekend, I thought, wow, this is good. Bought the album, loved all the singles, bought everything since. My favourite band, seen them live many times. Again, catchy songs, lots of diverse styles, clever, funny lyrics. It's what I love, you know. And that's why number 1 is Divine Comedy. So there you go. Didn't know how long that would take, but a bit longer than I thought it would, but never mind. Those are my 10 favourite groups. Lots of also rans, apart from the 2 I mentioned. You know, if you class them as a group, Chaz and Dave, a duo, does that count as a group? Guns N' Roses, Ignoring Chinese Democracy. Red Hot Chili Peppers, up to By the Way. Probably. Anything after that? No. Yeah, and many others that are particularly, you know, there's quite a few bands that I've got more into lately by picking up their stuff on vinyl. So bands like Blondie, The Police, Talking Heads, The Who, The Kinks, all sorts. Anyway, but those are definitely my top 10. The order, apart from Divine Comedy at the top, and then, as I say, Beatles and Blur will chop and change depending on what I've listened to most recently. But below that, the order's a bit flexible, but they're definitely my 10 favourite bands. Okay, I'm going to be following this up with male solo artists and female solo artists, so keep an eye out for them. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks, bye.